Welcome to Power to the People Pleasers. I'm so excited to have my guest Ashley Maina here today. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
So today we are talking about self reinvention, and as always on Power to the People Pleasers, I love to start with getting an understanding of, have you ever been a people pleaser, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah, I really was, and I didn't self-identify as one until kind of my world crumbled with the medical crisis that I went through, and I went through this experience where I could no longer do all the people pleasing that I was doing, but I really wasn't aware of, and the way my relationship shifted during that time, where I couldn't do much of anything, I couldn't take care of my children, I couldn't really take care much of myself and work and all of these things. So all of my normal ways of being stopped. And through that process, as I worked through that and kind of came back to being, a normal person functioning in life, I really saw how I was being before and kind of this new opportunity to be in a different way of being with people where I could no longer do what I used to do. I could no longer overgive. And just for me, it really showed up a lot in friendships,
Wow.
to be honest, especially before being a mother. I would just, I loved my friends and I just wanted to be around them. And I would kind of, whatever worked for them, I would do. I would meet them when it worked for them. I would contort my schedule and I would just show up. And through motherhood and then through this medical crisis, I couldn't do that anymore. And so it's been this new rebirth of learning, how can I honor myself and still honor connection and honor friendships, which I really care about that. And so it's been interesting few years to really discover, what does that look like?
Hmm. And what are some of the ways that you have shifted?
A lot of it is tuning into, does something work for me? And if it doesn't, really being honest about that. So even a small example, right? Like I was going on a hike this morning and my friend texted me last night and she's like, "Do you want to, hike the bigger mountain?" And I really didn't want to. I wanted to hike just kind of this lower
Yeah.
flat thing that we were going to do, and I honored that, knowing that I'm going to say no. I'm going to honor what I want, and that might mean that she wants to hike the bigger mountain and I hike the smaller, and we don't hike together today. But I've come to that place of, like, that has to be okay for me to honor myself. And I know that's a really small example, but it's a practice. And
Yeah.
that's, so it's been about honoring my needs and knowing that that might mean connection looks different.
Yeah. You know what? I appreciate sharing the small moments because really that's what life is, right? All
Mhm.
these small moments attached together, all these opportunities for
Yeah.
us to tune in. So you are a transformational coach,
Mhm.
vocal embodiment and belief repatterning.
Mhm.
That's juicy.
Yeah.
How did you get into that?
Yeah. So 10 years ago, I left my corporate finance career and I started with holistic health coaching. And I was really doing a lot of, you know, helping people with emotional eating and getting off of sugar and all of those great
Yeah.
fundamental things. And I noticed that I could talk about kale and quinoa and all these things, but there was such a deeper,
Yes.
there's deeper patterning going on. And so that made me so curious. And I wanted to do more training around belief repatterning and that whole world of really working with people at the level of belief, behavior, and identity. And so that led into transformational coaching work, which I love. And then along the way, I am a curious person and I follow these different breadcrumbs and paths that I kind of find. And the vocal embodiment was something that entered my world about 2 years ago when I was going through this health crisis and I couldn't do much. And it was really just a hobby at that point for me to connect with myself. And it became so much more. And I went on to do a training with this teacher, and um, yeah, the vocal embodiment piece is has been a new way for me to access emotion and to move that energy and to connect with myself in a much deeper level, and really connecting with my heart and being able to express myself in a new way, which I think is a really interesting tie into the people pleasing, because I found for myself when I was in a lot of the people pleasing behaviors, I wasn't expressing myself. And so vocal embodiment has been this new tool to both access emotion, to move emotion, but then also to express myself in a really
Mhm.
fun and playful way.
Can you tell me more about what vocal embodiment
Y- Yeah,
is?
yeah, I'd love to. I know I forget, sometimes um, that I don't
You
define
seem
something.
very passionate about it. I
Yeah.
wanna know more.
Yeah, so vocal embodiment is um, really starting to access sound first and play with sound. So that could start with just toning and just making some sound, right? But then we move into really tying it into the body. So you could, one example would be like somatic sounding. So you would do an exercise where you're connecting to your body. What's the prominent energy going on? And then what does that energy sound like? And so you're actually vocalizing and making that sound. And it's not about um, technical singing, it's not about doing it right. It's really just about starting to let the energy or the sound that's kind of within you, let that out and to be heard. And so that's kind of the most foundational exercise. But then there's a lot
Mhm.
of other exercises, which a lot of it has been for me accessing parts of myself that have gone dormant and giving those voice through sound. And that sound could be toning, that sound could be um, vowels, it could be actual words and song, it
Mm.
could be um, kind of a gibberish, like in
Wow.
kind of more the spiritual realm. They call
Mhm.
it light language.
Mm.
Um, and then it can be, there can be group elements too, where you're
Mhm.
doing vocal embodiment with a group and you're almost creating a song or a
Ah,
story and kind of letting it be this really organic, beautiful way to connect and like share a part of yourself and a part
wow.
of your soul with others. Yeah.
Wow, very cool. Very cool. I love the journey. I love hearing the journey. You also are a sensual yoga instructor.
Yeah.
How does that tie in?
Yeah. So that I started exploring that back in 2015. So that was kind of earlier on in my journey. And the sensual yoga element really was about helping me to access this place of conviction and confidence within myself and helping to teach that and spread that. When we are connected with our internal pleasure, it does change and kind of turn off parts of our brain that are so focused on the daily to-dos and the lists and the check in the boxes. And so it shuts off that part of the brain and actually connects us deeper into our sense of intuition and that kind
Mm,
of gut feeling and those sensations. So there's a great book by Naomi Wolf named Vagina, and she
mhm,
actually goes into kind of the history and the societal piece of it, but then she goes into the science of what is actually happening when a
mm,
woman is able to drop into a sense of pleasure in her own body and
mhm,
is also supported by society to do that. And it's really fascinating. So that the sensual yoga piece was really, it's a lot of pelvic centered movements
mhm,
and breath and really kind of connecting and
mhm.
awakening that part of our body. And actually there was some sounding work that I started way
Mm,
back then,
wow.
which is kind of a nice connection. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all linking back. So, one of the things that I saw in your content is this idea of self-reinvention.
Mhm.
So, why would an individual want to reinvent themselves based on your experience with coaching them through this?
Yeah, I find that women get to a place in their life, and this could be kind of before motherhood or after motherhood, and they're kind of in this place where they've checked a lot of boxes. They've done a lot
Mhm,
of the things that they either set out to do or they were kind of, um, you know, thought that they should be doing, and they come to this place that they're not really quite content or happy with who they've become,
mm,
and they're looking to either connect deeper with themselves or to have more meaning in their life. Um, and they're starting to kind of realize that maybe the way that they're doing life, whether that's how they work or how they show up with their partner or if they have children, that it's
mhm,
not really feeling good to them and they want to simply feel good again. So I do have a lot of women who they use the language of I want to feel good again. I want to, you know, like kind of where I'm headed.
mhm, mhm. So, based on your tools and skill set and all of the things that you offer, what is a process that you would take this woman who wants to have
Mhm.
this reinvention through?
Yeah, so it's really a three-step process where first we're looking at the foundation, and um, a lot of what we're doing is we're clearing the clutter, as I say, we're creating space, and so we're starting to look at, that vision of where are we going, but then in order to get there, we do need to create that space and to stop doing a lot. A lot
Mhm.
of reinvention is a big part of it is doing less and creating the space to then kind of come back to yourself. And so
Mhm.
that first piece is the foundation and clearing the space, knowing where we're going. The second piece is really that belief part, because if we are operating from a certain place, we want to get to this new place. Usually, there's in the coaching world, it was called ecology. So it's this idea of if you're here and you want to get here, there's this rubber band that's going to kind of keep you stuck, right? And so we need to make sure that that ecology for you in this new place where you're going feels safe for you. And so a lot of that is belief work to help your nervous system, to help, your beliefs, your behavior, and your identity kind of all speak the same language and allow you to feel good and safe in this new place that you want to be so that it can last and it's not this quick fix. So
Yes.
foundation, working with beliefs, and then the last part is for me, it's kind of like the cherry on top is that vocal embodiment work, or is that
Mhm.
sensuality and kind of coming back into connection with your feminine nature. It's kind of wherever um whatever's present for a certain client is needing, we can kind of explore those different angles through moving energy and emotion through vocal work, or starting to connect with that sense of sensuality and sense of feminine nature to really just kind of bolster up the confidence and kind of that energy to take it to the next step. So that's kind of the arc: foundation, beliefs, and
Mhm.
then kind of the bonuses, which are the vocal embodiment and the sensuality.
Yeah. So where do you find the stuck beliefs happen the most?
It's there's so much, myself included. I don't share this work or say these things, you know, and like it's like I've experienced this arc, right? It's like so when I
Mhm.
share this stuff, it's not from a place of judgment at all. It's from a
Mhm.
place of there's so much opportunity for all of us.
Mhm.
But it's really, there's the low self-confidence, there's the self-worth, there's a lot of this energy of like I need to just do.
Mhm.
And when we can come back to this place of self-trust and self-worth and um, trust in self, it's a lot of tied up in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'd love to know a little bit more. You have these beliefs that you're shifting. Um, how does this all tie into your understanding your sensual energy? I know you wanted to give away a free gift of the quiz, essential energy type. How does
Mhm.
this all play in?
Yeah, of knowing what your central energy is. Yeah. So the quiz is discovering your central energy type, and it's by animal. So the first animal is the armadillo, and you can think of this as kind of the arc of growth, right? So the
Mhm.
armadillo is like the hard shell, reserved, kind of,
Yeah.
not engaging, right? And the arc is all the way to the lioness, who the
Mhm.
lioness is, just fully knows herself. She knows her worth. She's has that presence that I think a lot of women want. And so knowing where you are on that arc is your sensual energy type. And so
Mhm.
there's, the armadillo, there's the dog, there's the gazelle, there's the house cat, there's,
Mhm.
and so these all represent these different phases, right? Of
Mhm.
going from reserved to going to people pleasing, which is the dog, to going to, you know, the gazelle is kind of this like external outward
Mhm.
beauty, but
Mhm.
kind of fragmented inside. And then the house
Right.
cat is um, kind of this embodiment of like taking care of oneself, but not having that relationship and that connection with others. And then the lioness is the ultimate
Mm.
goal. And so there's this beautiful arc that one can travel, and you can kind of it's
Mhm.
cyclical. You can travel it again and again, but it's kind of the path towards this place of really feeling solid and happy and content and just fully yourself with all your parts really integrated.
Yeah, interesting. So, I also I saw that you are in somatic sex education.
Hmm.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's been a very slow journey of mine and a curiosity. I think I studied sensual yoga back in 2015 with the late
Mhm.
Salma Zadora. And she used to travel to India and really took a lot of what she learned back to this training that I did. Um, and I think, going through having children, going through this own arc that I went through, somatic sex education was another curiosity of mine, and I've been doing it very slowly. And with the health bit that I went through, I've taken a lot of pauses, but
Mhm.
a lot of it is nervous system work. Really learning how
Mm.
to titrate. Pleasure would be a good example, right? So even
Mhm.
just learning how can we let in, just that 1% more of pleasure. And when I say pleasure, it could be a hot cup of tea. It could be,
Mm.
getting a little more comfortable on the couch with a blanket, but like really letting yourself receive and absorb that pleasure and staying
Mhm.
with it. And so that helps to expand our window of tolerance and helps to expand our nervous system to kind of reorient a little bit towards that. So, um, yeah, that's been a very slow journey, but it's been interesting just to understand some
Mhm.
new, ways to connect, ways to be with our nervous system, ways
Mhm.
to kind of just explore. I think there's a lot to that. I think there's a lot for us as women and even in society to learn and explore and understand about our own sensuality and sexuality that could really um, be a force for good. I think
Mhm.
that there's been so much um, just conditioning and shame and kind of constriction around that
Mhm.
it becomes this kind of taboo topic. And I
Right.
think, even when I was teaching sensual yoga, I would kind of hear rumblings of just different rumors of like this
Yeah.
woman's teaching naked yoga and like I wasn't. But there is this stigma around like
Mhm.
when a woman is connected with her sensuality and her confidence and like her inner aliveness, like there is this kind of dampening of that,
Mhm.
over history and I think even today. And so somatic sex education has been just kind of this little breadcrumb that I've been following.
Mhm. Mhm. Thank you. Yeah, I was, when I was preparing for today, I was uncovering some of these things and thinking, you know, what are the questions that a person who, sees some of your website and is like, okay, yes, I'm ready for reinvention, but is so unsure about, you know, is it naked yoga? Is it like how does this all connect?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
how do you I think you did a great job explaining the connection to the nervous system. That is an excellent way. That helped paint a different picture for me because you're right, there is a stigma. There is like, what how does this relate? Was
Mhm.
the question for me. Um, but I loved how you described pleasure in a way that has nothing to do with sex.
Mhm.
Right? And
Yeah.
that's part of helping people to understand that when we're using words like that, it doesn't I mean, that can be a part of it, but
Mhm.
it also means actually embracing the things that make you feel good,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's
Yeah.
make it even more simple, right?
Yeah.
Um, like the cup of tea, like the cozy blanket, and
Mhm.
I've noticed so often with, clients of mine that they they almost discount or discredit that those things bring them joy and pleasure because they're not big enough,
Yeah.
right? It has to
Mhm.
be the spa trip,
Mhm.
but we can find joy and pleasure and do these reinvention strategies to connect with what feels good right now, today,
Yeah.
without having to go away.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a great thing too, right?
No, no, and I love that you brought that up because, we do I think and I was there completely, like, I was always like, "I need to just go away and go to Tulum, and I just need to, take a month off of life," and, like, all these big things, right? But, like,
Yep.
it has been a journey to realize that, no, going out and letting the sun, hit my face for
Yes.
5 minutes, like, that is pleasure, and
Yes.
the more that we can actually be aware of, "Oh, I'm choosing pleasure and I'm choosing to stay in it just 1% longer." Like, that is
Mm,
actually helping our nervous system. And,
yeah.
women come and they say, I wanna feel good again." And, like, these are the tools that I've just been putting in my basket, and it's
Mm,
and I think I'm so glad that you reflected this back to me because I think it's so important to know that pleasure and feeling good again is
yeah.
an everyday process, and it's not about sex, and it's about
Yeah.
a woman understanding what is it for her first,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Anything that you would like to wrap up with today, Ashley? Final thoughts.
Um, I think going on that thread of pleasure and voice and emotion, like, there is so much to be had by being with ourselves and by being able to express and move that energy and that emotion and feel pleasure that I'd really wrap it up by encouraging women if they're curious about this work, find tools and resources, whether it's on your website or my website, to be in practice of these with these tools
Yeah.
instead of reading and researching and buying one more self-care book. It's really an encouragement to try these practices on,
Yes.
even
Take
for 5 minutes a
action.
day, and honestly, like, that will move the needle.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Love that. Love that, Ashley.
Yeah.
I'm all about moving the needle. Like, let's just do a small moment, right? Makes such a big difference. It was such a pleasure speaking with you
Yeah.
today and learning all of these pieces. You're broadening my awareness as well. So thank you.
Thank you so
Appreciate it.
much for having me. It was really fun to talk to you.
Amazing. Amazing. And thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in again to Power to the People Pleasers. I invite you to stay tuned for the next episode coming soon.